Hello, hello.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30. I'll call our meeting to order. Let's stand for the pledge. All right. The next item is approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
There it goes.
Okay, we have a motion and support to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, raise your hand if you approve of approving the agenda. All right, that motion carries. Thank you. We have an agenda. Discussion items. Let's dive in. The first one is curriculum and instruction-related items. The professional development update.
There's probably an extra in there. So what you've got is just a printout of what I'm going through here. But we had a regional professional development day last Monday with all the school districts and AMA coming to the high school for a PD. It was developed by AMA, and so it was nice that our staff could go and attend and not have to worry about all of the logistics and everything that goes along with it. This I'll share with you in my update, the digital, and you can click in and see the descriptions of the different courses. So I just wanted to go through and do a quick overall view of it. District came together in the high school for an opening keynote and then a closing keynote, and then they traveled throughout the high school for different breakout sessions. Our two outside speakers were Michelle Borba and Kristen, is it G's? I didn't hear her pronounce it. Gees or G's? I'm not quite sure. But so we had a keynote, breakout sessions, and then finished out the day with coming back together. So this is just an overview of Michelle's sessions. And in particular, the second one, turning apathy into agency, was particularly relevant. You hear a lot of conversations about the apathy of students and what do we do to get them to, really push themselves in all aspects. And as we'll talk about later, in attendance as well. So she did her Stressed, Connected, and Challenged was her keynote that everyone heard. She's done research on engaging students at the high school level. And then she did a breakout session, turning apathy into agency. I just put up there, Gemini did this. It's kind of a neat feature. So this was all done through a Google form, and then when you have responses, you can tell Gemini to create a summary of the feedback. So this is based off of 282 comments from the attendees. And again, that included APS, Alcona, Atlanta, and Hillman, and AMA staff. So you see some themes that are relevant to us with the relationships and managing student support, behavior, things like that. And then this was just the results of the content of her presentation was relevant and useful. Blue is strongly agree, and red is agree. So a large portion appreciated the content that she presented. Kristen G's had, again, 2 sessions, creating calm classrooms, looking at those challenging behaviors, and then reducing anxiety and boosting student engagement. And just full disclosure, I had Gemini shorten up the second description because it didn't fit on the slide. So it offered, said, would you like me to shorten this? I said, why, yes, I would.
Really like this operation, eh?
I do. And then this was her closing session, bringing light into work, reconnecting with purpose to reignite the teams. And the summary of the feedback, relationships and connections, again, strong theme there. Self-care and grace for the educators, and practical strategies. And her results were a little bit mixed, but still overall strong support in what she shared with the districts. We had, I think it's a total of 4 teachers, APS staff that presented. Dr. Brandy Shooks did 2 different sessions, and those are the descriptions of those. And then Johanna Doobie and Amy Konechny did 2 sessions as well. Angie Smith did 2 sessions. So Johanna and Amy did the same session and repeated it, and Angie and Dr. Shooks did 2 different sessions. This is just feedback on all of the breakout sessions, not our staff in particular. So again, was it relevant and useful? Overwhelming majority felt it was. And then this is a summary again of all the breakout sections, and not just our staff. And you see the first thing mentioned there, AI. There were 2 sessions on AI, and they were the most highly attended, which you'll see on the next slide. I blocked it off on the presentation because it's got the people's names there. I didn't ask them if they were okay with me sharing that. But that top one up there you see is the AI one. And then I think the 40, I'm looking at the 51, is that the other AI or was that the math one? It's pop quiz time. The 77 in attendance was for the AI. I think the 51 was for a math session, and the 43.
I'm going to say the 43 is AI because it's got the same marks just ahead
Yep,
of
I
it.
see it there. And then the 51 was for math. So a lot of interest in AI for sure. Also good that there was a lot of interest in math. And then they just asked if they liked having this again in the fall. And so 93% said yes. And then as we talk about some of the summary here, there was some variation. Some staff felt this would have been better before we started the school year as opposed to in October. We knew that, but we also had been planning this regional day for over a year. And so I would say, again, overall, it was very well received. And certainly the idea of doing it before school isn't lost. But this summer, we also did, AMA did the tech conference at the beginning of August for the region as well. So I think that's that's all I had to share there. Again, you've got the presentation. You can dig into the sessions a little bit more. But it was nice to see our staff presenting on topics, and seems like it was a pretty successful session. Any questions, comments?
Great. Well, thank you, and thanks to Gemini for putting it all together. I can see that where that would be a valuable tool, because you can get that sort of thing would normally take quite a while to put together, and so we probably can expect to see more nice, succinct kinds of reports about various activities.
Yeah, it is very helpful in producing things quickly, and you always have to go back and make sure that it figured out what it says. Is it right? Does it make sense? But it's getting better every day. So
Interesting. Well, thank you.
Sure. And I didn't say, so AMA, Megan Gauthier was, I think, primarily in charge of putting this all together. So hats off to her and her staff for doing this for the region.
All right, so the next item is the club handbook approval. And we have on our first one, Environmentalist Club Proposal. Does anybody want to present on this?
Yeah, I'll just do, so it might be, the reason it's the club handbook approval, the board approves the school handbook, which has the clubs listed in it. The policy language is a little bit gray on how this process works, but it says no curricular-related activity shall be considered to be under the sponsorship of this board unless it meets one of the or more of the criteria stated above, which defines what a club is, and has been approved by the superintendent. So if I don't approve it, you don't approve it, but if I approve it, there doesn't seem to be a mechanism, as long as it follows the policy, for the board to both approve it or not approve it. So the way you do that, I think, is through the approving of the handbook, which lists all of the clubs. So with that, you have an environmental club from Andrew Wolfgang with a description there. And also the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America, FCCLA, from Paula Garkey as part of the Teacher Academy program. And so ultimately, we would be reapproving the handbook next, at the October meeting, with the inclusion of these clubs. And if you have any questions, I will have them answered. Romeo is going to be here, but he's, is it public knowledge yet? I would assume it is it? No? All right, he's out on personal business, so. Otherwise, he would be here tonight.
But, so for the record, you have approved these?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then along those lines too, we did have some students that were interested in, I don't know if they were calling it a Turning Point Club, but Mr. Bordage met with them and they've come to an agreement. The only catch would be is if it's a affiliate of Turning Point, then we wouldn't be able to hold it during school hours. So they've come to an agreement that they'll meet after school and we'll provide the space like we do for many groups. So something like that, because it's not during instructional hours, the board doesn't have to approve that. Or the handbook with those listed in there. Right.
Dave, on Paula's FCCLA request here, in her first paragraph, it says that CTE has to offer something. Yeah. Are we offering anything right now to, or to?
For the Teacher
that-
Academy?
Well, is that, I guess I'm curious if this is just for the Teacher Academy, if it's for all CTE, is there other CTE things?
I will get clarification on that.
Were we negligent in this department beforehand, I guess, is kind of where I'm.
I don't believe so. It was
There's
something she
something-
wanted to bring to us. Yeah.
Okay, so we were covering it, or that requirement that she mentions,
Yeah,
but this is just a different option for the kids.
yes.
Okay.
And I'll just make sure I've got that 100% correct, but I know she was excited to bring this opportunity as opposed to we have to bring this opportunity.
Okay, that's what I was curious.
Okay, so anybody else have any questions, comments? If not, I think we can move along to our next item, which is the finance and operation related item, the Alpena Chamber of Commerce membership information, which had been requested quite some time ago, but we've been keeping it in mind. So
Yeah.
here it is.
Yeah, and I apologize, it kind of fell off our radar, but annual renewal process. And so this just details out the different levels of sponsorship. We are at the partner level, which is on the third page of that packet. And for the district, we've attended some of the educational opportunities and certainly many of the chamber events in which that level of membership gives you discounted rates on those. We also send quite a large group to the annual dinner, so having discount on those tickets is, an option that we wouldn't have at the partner level. I think we get, probably 3 or 4 tables. Does anyone know specifically so it's about 3 or 4 tables depending on what's going on. And then 2 passes for all the good morning and good midday Alpena events. We've sponsored some of those. I attend them when I can. Lee attends them on a regular basis, and we've sent other people too. So those are the primary differences for us between the sponsor level and the partner level there.
Do you know, is the AMA, are they at the sponsor level?
I don't know offhand. Does anyone happen to know? I can ask.
I was kind of wondering, do we take advantage of all of the sponsor level plus?
So yeah, e-notes sponsor additional for, we do receive those. To me, that's good information to have. We could probably find it if it wasn't emailed to us directly. Additional marketing, I don't know if we take advantage of, other than our name being associated with different activities and when we sponsor and things like that. We're not for profit, so it's not probably a super valuable benefit to be able to do that for us. But the discounts, the special rates, and the 2 passes, we certainly take good advantage of those. And when you go to those, those are networking opportunities, chances for us to share with the business community what's going on in the schools. And so there's some intangible value there.
How much are we spending on those tickets per year for those dinners?
Oh, I think they're $50 a seat at the table. Does anyone remember?
3
So a
tables?
table is a couple thousand, and the year Joyce was nominated for Citizen of the Year, I think we had probably 5 tables. And I would say on average we have at least 3. The CTE likes to be at that event too because of their close connection to the businesses and things like that.
They actually pay for most of the tickets.
Okay. Further questions, discussion? All right, good. We just wanted to make sure we brought this information back to the board since it had been requested. If there are no more comments or questions, we can move along to policy items. So the letter A there, public comment, that's included on the next page of your packet. The reason for bringing this is Dave and I were talking about board meetings and the sort of amount of time they were taking and things that were happening, and we spoke with Brad Banasek at NASB, and we were talking about various ways of perhaps streamlining our meetings so that we could have more time to do what we're supposed to be doing. And he said, well, you're really under no obligation to offer people multiple opportunities to speak. And that has been taking a lot of time. So we were thinking if we just eliminated letter E here in public participation at board meetings, that would clarify perhaps that everybody gets their 3 minutes and that's it. And that would also eliminate the maybe some of the grandstanding and retorts that just go on for a long time, which is not really often that interesting to the board. It's just people working their things out amongst each other.
So you're, excuse me, you're proposing simply eliminating portion E, and that's it?
Yes, because everything else is broadly under the purview of the presiding officer of the meeting. And so, if there is the occasion the board really wants to hear from somebody or follow up on something, you could. But just to keep board meetings going, you can just limit it to 1 3-minute period per person and keep the meeting going. We're also proposing to go down to 1 public comment instead of 2, and that's really an agenda building sort of Dave and Eric question. But as far as the inside that period, we thought that this would be appropriate perhaps to keep things rolling along. So this was our proposal, and you can discuss.
I would think that would be certainly reasonable. It still allows community input, does not take that away. However, it does allow to streamline the process, which is, I think we can all attest, has been somewhat cumbersome lately. And if this would streamline that and still meet the needs of the community, I would certainly be in favor of that.
Other thoughts? Is there strong enough support to bring this to a second reading at the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you guys, both of you discuss this and you talk to MASB about it, and we're keeping everything fair for everybody, I think it's reasonable.
Bring it around again.
Okay, and again, this is just the elimination of something, nothing else, nothing new is being proposed. It's just the elimination of this one sentence. So if everybody would like to see this back, we'll bring it back next meeting for a second reading like that. Okay. So that was that. Use of social media is, again, sort of a placeholder item, but if there's any discussion, we're certainly open to that. Hearing none.
Wait,
Oh,
is-
yeah,
so
go ahead.
this is just our same policy we've always had? Nothing's been added,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. So just keeping social media on, we do have the proposed changes.
What were we waiting for? We were waiting for somebody to come back on something. somebody, weren't we?
Well, dating back to September,
Didn't-
at that point,
We made a little change to it, so that's why we wanted to put it back on.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one word or one something that we
That we had to
changed?
check on it. Now I can't
Well,
remember.
so Dr. Lawson and I spoke to David Coleman on September 17th or something. So I don't remember where it was in the board agenda. We've kept it on each agenda so that it can go to second reading without having to start over. So we had the proposed changes, we went, talked to Coleman. It then came back to the board meeting the following Monday night with those changes in there.
That's what we have here.
This is the original policy, so we're just keeping it on, used it as a placeholder. But, yeah, we probably want to, do we have a version with them in there? Or it's separate? So we kept them separate,
Okay.
so that you could see it side by side.
Okay. So could we have that for next Monday's meeting?
It's what she,
Yeah, but
that was a
they
month
need to
ago.
see it, yes.
Yeah, well, let's bring
It
that-
would be there the way it was back on September 20th or whatever, side by side, but we would approve it as policy as presented, knowing that those changes would be inserted into the policy.
Okay.
I can read it to you. I have it in front of me.
Go ahead.
All right, so the proposed change is district social media communications will strive to be respectful of diverse beliefs and backgrounds of students, families, and community members. To maintain a neutral, inclusive, welcoming environment, content will avoid politically charged or controversial topics. Instead, posts were focused on supporting the district's educational mission by highlighting items such as school events, student and staff achievements in important updates, family engagement opportunities, and other content that promotes student success.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So to move that to second reading, we just have to say as approved.
excuse me.
Move it.
Here,
Oh,
AJ, please.
So to move that to second reading, we just have to say, let's move it to second reading, and then
It
it will be,
just, that's why it's staying
Yeah.
on the agenda. So if we
Okay.
talk about it again next time, it can be
would be
a second reading, and we can move on it if the board chooses.
Sir, did you have the part that Dave made a change or got rid of something?
That was the following paragraph, it talked about.
The following paragraph
Yeah, the
looks
editorial
like it's the
rights.
same as,
He said he would strike that.
Yeah,
Yes.
something that was striked. What part was?
the district.
It was about the student content.
It was, I think,
The district may exercise editorial control over the style and content of student speech on district-approved social media if reasonably related to legitimate pedagogical concerns. Staff or students who post prohibited content shall be subject to appropriate disciplinary action.
And his
Is that what you're
suggestion-
talking about?
Yeah, his
Okay.
suggestion was to remove the content related to pedagogical issues.
Yes, he just thought that,
You should have editorial.
right, you would just, district-approved social media, period. So the district would just have that editorial control.
The
without any
district will have the
qualification.
control, or will our superintendent of Lee, will he have control, or are we going to have to approve everything that's put out on social media?
Well, and I think the key word there is student, because our students don't post on our district social media.
Right.
And I'm not sure if Mr. Coleman was aware of that. But I can't think of a time when the students have posted something on our social media. It's all done by principals, staff members, and Lee. So I don't know if that would really have the impact that he was thinking it would have. I understand what he was trying to say, that it's, you know, your social, that it's the board's social media account, and therefore you have editorial control. But I don't think students have ever posted on social media, so. If
Probably
it's
it's,
student voice that's being, you know, directed there.
would probably just sort of be a difference which doesn't make a lot of difference until maybe one day it does. So if you want to have that in place, you can.
I would say we leave it in place. Take that, whatever,
The
pedagogical?
pedagogical.
Yeah, whatever.
Pedagogical.
Take that out and just
Pedagogy.
leave.
Teaching, instruction.
I looked it up last time, because I did not know.
Yeah.
But yes, remove that and just leave editorial comment, or editorial rights
Yeah.
in the district's hands. Would be my opinion on that.
Eric?
No, I'm just gonna, just ask that you present that electronically so we can review
Yep.
that
Yeah.
with those edits. Thank you.
Okay.
And who's going to make the decision on what's politically charged or controversial topics?
As it stands now, that would be district staff and superintendent.
Okay.
Okay. We'll bring it back. Thank you for the discussion. The next item, agenda, that is, again, sort of also a placeholder. I don't recall that anything had been proposed here, but just for the board to have discussion on it if anyone so chooses.
Well, I think we need to adhere to, because of the other faux pas with the one agenda that I read at noon on Monday, and then all of a sudden I come in and it's changed. So the individual board members may submit items for the agenda no later than 7 calendar days prior to the monthly workshop meeting to be included upon the concurrence of the board president. I feel like we need to adhere to that.
Okay.
That, you know, I wasn't real pleased with the surprise when I came in. I wasn't prepared, and I don't like not being prepared.
What was it that was added that meeting?
Nothing was really added to this. This had just been-
No, the meeting that Sarah's referring to.
The agenda, the item we just spoke about.
I think it was the social media policy where,
But it had been included somewhere, and that's why I wasn't surprised.
I think it was just forgotten. That's what, it wasn't,
well, and so I think this is a great segue into the book study, and maybe we can shave a little time off of this meeting tonight. You know, just getting back to that process of the agenda goes out to the board on Fridays for final review. That would be a great time to catch it. But I think then in interspersing the lessons here of, you know, he talks about making sure that the agenda items are focused on, 50% of the time are focused on student outcomes. We can kind of strengthen that process we have in place of the agenda comes out on Friday. And then we not only make sure it's right, but also with an eye towards, is this focused on student outcomes? I think that would be a positive. So I think what happened with that agenda item was, it was on a previous agenda. I think you and I thought two different things as to whether it would be on the next agenda. So it wasn't on the agenda, and then that got caught at noon on Monday and put it back on. So again, if we're all looking at that agenda on Friday and say, hey, you missed something, because it's real easy to miss things when you're going through notes and all of that, but.
Yeah,
But it would be nice to be alerted that there's a new agenda.
Sure. So, but what you're saying is you like the policy as it is, and you just
Yes.
want us to
We
adhere
just
to
need
it.
to adhere to it.
Very good.
Need to adhere to it.
Any other comments about this? Anybody feel the need for any changes?
I just have a quick question.
Okay.
So if somebody requests something from the board president to put on the agenda, you will put it on the agenda then, or is it up to you if you want to put it on the agenda? Or how does that work?
It says.
What's the phrase?
It says included upon concurrence of the board president. So at this point, if it does not seem like, perhaps it's something which isn't in the board's, purview, it's not a board item, I might look at that and say, well, that doesn't make any sense on our agenda because the board can't do anything about that. It's not a board thing. But generally, yes, if somebody requests for something to be on the agenda and it's something that the board can properly act on, I don't see why not. But that's exactly the sort of thing. I mean, if the board wants to change something like that, it's our policy. But.
I guess I would be, say you could get into a little trouble if they weren't as nice as you. The president wasn't as nice as you, Eric, or whatever, except there was a catch-all, second paragraph, denial of the opportunity to have the item placed on the agenda will not preclude an individual or group from opportunity to speak during the public participation portion of the meeting. So you could still, even if you were being a jerk and said no repeatedly, you could still get it in front of us.
I think, though, that statement is referring to people who are not on the board.
Yes.
So if somebody
Correct.
wants to get an agenda item on, from a community group or something like that.
Okay, not a board person.
Right,
not
but
a-
that's also what the board comment and question time is for. If a board member has not, maybe had any luck with me, you can appeal to the whole board. And I think, is there a mechanism for that?
Well, there was a brief discussion a month or so ago about adding something to the policy regarding that if for some reason it was not added on and it was brought up at comment section, perhaps it could be, brought to, if the whole board wanted it. We discussed that briefly.
Yeah, through a motion, maybe.
Through a
Wasn't
motion,
that it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So perhaps there be something put in place where a motion of the board to add something to the agenda could supersede in that case. Food for thought,
I don't think you even have,
Well,
I think parliamentarily, if you make a motion and it's seconded, it has to be discussed whether it's on the agenda or not.
With the motion? The motion would be to add it onto the agenda, not on the topic itself. So then therefore, that topic, whatever it may be, would need to, the president would have to honor that motion and add it on the next agenda, or whatever agenda was discussed. I think that would certainly put a checks and balances in regardless of who's sitting in that chair.
Yeah, and some of these things, Robert's rules, not everybody is going to come to this board and read all of Robert's rules, all 500 pages or 1,000 pages or wherever it is. It's, depending on your edition, it's just insane. But to have that spelled out in our policy, that if you want to have this done, this is a way to do it, that would be perfectly appropriate, I would think.
So what do we want to, or how do we want to say that properly?
We could take a look at this language and maybe see if there's a way to pop in something like
concurrence of the board
if
president or a majority vote.
if items will be placed on the agenda following a motion and successful vote. I guess really, it would be nice to have a time to do that. So maybe we could figure out a way to say that like that board comment time would be an appropriate time to do that. But yeah, we certainly could we could put some language together like that. We'll talk about it in our next meeting.
Okay.
And I think I get the gist of what you're asking for. And I think that makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So, just making some notes. We should check that against Robert's rules too, because there might be a mechanism in Robert's rules for making that happen as well. In which case, we'd just be codifying it in our policy. Okay, yeah, I think we've got an idea of what to do with that. Any further comments, questions, issues with that? Yeah, okay, great. Super. So that's agenda. We'll bring that back. So then on to board discussion items. We have this board orientation work group which we need to form. And the idea behind that is just that we form a sort of a task force, I think was one of the words that you used, and figure out how to better prepare our board members for service and to orient them. And, there would be, trainings involved and things like that. But we thought a committee from the board would be very well suited to figure out how to do that. So who would like to serve this task force / work group?
I'll volunteer since I'm one of the new ones that just came in.
Okay, great.
Maybe putting together like a checklist or some type of, to make sure we give, they get everything they need.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it would. Yeah, having somebody new, you're very sensitive to anything you felt was missing, and we can make sure that gets put in. Good. Anybody else? I mean, I can serve ex officio, but
Do we want to volunteer Anna? I didn't say
that's always.
Well, I certainly don't want to volunteer her, but she would be in a good position to be able to give some insight into that process as she was sitting as the board president during that time frame. So I would recommend it if she wanted to.
Why don't we'll leave it this way, since generally the board president will compose committees. I will appoint Monica to this, and I'll serve ex officio, and I will ask Anna if she will serve. Because you're right, I think that would be excellent. Super. Okay, well, we will get that up and running so that committee can start to do its work and report back to the board. Very good. Anything else on that?
Just
Forget anything?
reading, so those would be open meetings, so we would have to publish the meeting dates and times and everything and follow that. But other than that, nope, I think we're good.
Okay. Since you were the first to say yes, perhaps you would chair that committee. and you could.
That'd be fine.
You could organize that.
I'll talk to Ann and see when we can meet and
yes,
whatever.
and see when.
Yeah,
see
if
when
she
you can
agrees.
meet. Yep. Yeah, we'll speak to her about that. All right, very good. Is that it for that one?
Yep,
Okay.
I think so.
Great. And then this is new. You'll see this on agendas. I may or may not, always have something to report, but I thought it might be useful. So the first thing I would like to do is just mention a wonderful meeting that I had with Katie Lee about. It started off because she wanted to talk a little bit about cell phone use and things like that. But she also wanted to talk about things she thought that were really, really cool and really good happening at the junior high, and wanted to just, give me some information on things that she thought I should know. It was a wonderful discussion. I thought it was time extremely well spent, and she would like to invite any or all of you to do this, either individually in groups. She said she's there a lot. She'd be willing to meet after hours at the junior high if you needed to. Go, you couldn't do it by regular business hours. I would certainly recommend that you all take her up on this, because I thought it was an extremely enlightening time. One of the big areas of discussion that we ended up in was the talk about what used to be called the common assessments and are now called our standard assessments, and the work that she has been doing at the junior high for about the last 5 years, as I think what she said. And of course, this is going to be a really vital portion of our strategic plan going forward, is that opportunity to assess where our students are without the danger of things happening, like, let's say, NWEA changes their test. Or there's another one too where that happens.
M-STEP.
M-STEP.
Yeah,
Thank you.
PSAT and
Yep,
the new
PSAT.
WIN.
Yeah, and anytime they do that, it's no longer apples to apples trying to go back in time, which is a great frustration to us, as we try to figure out what's going on. So our standard assessments now will carry through those kinds of periods, giving district staff and the board a solid way of measuring student progress. So anyway, it was a really, really great discussion. I just wanted to, make a plug for that for everybody, to go and visit with her. And of course, I think you'll find any of our principals, very, very open to board visits. So I'd highly recommend that. But that was really a wonderful discussion. I just wanted to pass that along, that had taken place. And the second item is we had a visit to Ella White last Thursday, right?
Yep, I think so.
And Dave invited me to come along just to kind of soak all this up. So we were visiting with Justin Glusing of AMA, and Mary was there. One of the other AMA staff, Ashley, her last name escapes me. Peterson, thank you. And of course, Megan Black, and of course, the two of us.
Yep.
And basically, the discussion was centering around AMA program needs and their desire to be able to be housed more at Ella White because it would make a lot of sense for their staff and getting all kinds of things done, and so instead of running back and forth from Lincoln, they were proposing that we try to find a way to house more of them and their activities there. This doesn't necessarily fall neatly into our plans because the space at Ella White is at such a premium, but at the same time, there could be interesting things coming out of this King Scott discussion as far as building use. It was I thought, a very enlightening discussion, and as your board president, I wanted to report to you all that this had been going on, so that when this comes across your desk, you'll have some idea, maybe better of what's really going on. But I wanted to make sure Dave says a few words about this as well, because he was certainly pivotal in that discussion.
Yeah. So King Scott, we're doing our long-term planning with them, and we're targeting November, rolling out the first round of what it is they've been working on. Probably a month ago, Justin and I were talking. He's been working on figuring out how to accommodate his staff and provide the best service for our students over at Ella White. He's been working with a different division of King Scott to draw up some plans on changing the footprint, not the footprint, but the office space, utilizing the gym and the stage and the shower area. Sorry, not the gym, but the stage and the shower area at Ella White, possibly for additional classroom space or office space. So as that process moved forward, he was keeping us in the loop, and we were a part of that process. But then it came pretty clear as King Scott started talking about some of the potential scenarios across the district that work at Ella White might be impacted or have an impact on those scenarios. So I wanted them, the two divisions in King Scott, to come together and make sure that they understood all the different pieces. And so they've been doing that. They've been working on that. And when we see them come and present in November, we should have a pretty good product to start looking at. Not a product, but they're going to present some scenarios for us to say what we like about them, what we don't like. It's not a choose A or B, and you'll just see how many factors go into all of these scenarios, like transportation, but grade bands and staffing space and utilization of buildings and everything. So it was just a good time. AMA wants to move forward and bring their staff together, and so just thought it was the right time to kind of sit down and actually look at these plans through both of those lenses.
So that was really all my report. Just wanted to bring those two items to you all. So with that, we can, unless anybody has any questions, we can proceed to the book study.
And maybe we can kind of blend the two, the board goals and the book study, if anyone's open to that. I'm just going to kind of doing some. So if you're okay with it.
How do you all feel about that? Yes? Yes? Good?
Hungry, Eric.
Go ahead and pass that. I'm going to keep one of these. Was there an extra one down there, the last thing?
Yes.
Okay, so there should be enough there.
That's the extra one, isn't it?
Get it to 10. You need one?
Oh. There was 3 extra, Dave.
Okay, I'll grab it. Nope. Watch this. There you go. Can I get one of those back, Eric? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, thank you.
Big paper for you, Eric.
Yeah. So I'll kind of go out of order as far as the book study and start with the last chapter, which is communication. And I think that fits nicely into our family and community partnership goals. And when you look at this sheet with all the pillars, I think family, community, and partnership is where we didn't have a lot of good decisions or ideas about what that might look like as far as board goals. So I think of all the areas, that's probably the one that'll, take a little bit more work to really figure out what we want that goal to look like. So when you look at what we had talked about last week in that area, increase, it's about family trust and communication, increasing families who strongly agree regarding trust and communication, annual family and community surveys, and then we had a lot of conversation around that family engagement goal of 80% of families will participate in at least 2 school-sponsored academic events. And we discussed that collecting that data, it would be a little bit challenging if it was a roster of this family attended 1 but not 2. And so then we kind of talked about maybe it was just calculating attendance at all of our school events, and then creating some sort of measure in increased attendance or something along those lines. Point being, I don't know that we really have a good idea of what the board might set as goals there, which then goes pretty much to the whole idea behind the book study, which is getting out to the community, figuring out what those guardrails are, what the priorities are. And one of the pieces is in that chapter is going out and engaging in listening sessions with the community. And I think that would be, probably something we want to kind of think about, or you as a board. How could we incorporate some of that activity of getting out and listening to the community and working through that to then decide, where are we on trust? Where are we on communication? Are those right things? What is the definition of family engagement and those pieces? We have some of those, family engagement definitions, but they're not necessarily, the board hearing from the community what those pieces are. And obviously, the chapter's entitled Communication, so it's primarily talking about, once we set the goals, how do we communicate the goals to the community, and how do we communicate the progress and the results? But there's also that portion of doing those listening sessions and hearing from the community in order to define those goals. So what I'm proposing is probably not ready to say we're ready to bring a family and community partnership board goal to the table for approval next week. Academics and programs, I think you're in a much better place to say yes, with some tweaking or as it's written on this document. But I think part of that family and community partnership goal area is the board building its community engagement plan as well.
Yes, and of course, if you look at page 254, that's where you'll find some of this outlined, the sort of listing session idea. So if you want to refresh your memory, that's where that is.
Mm-hmm. So I think you have the luxury of not having to have an answer tonight on this. So food for thought, obviously open to discussion here, but I do believe, like, we really want to, this is possibly one of the most important pillars, because when you have strong trust and partnership with the families and the community, all else can fall into place much easier than if you don't. And you don't have a hard deadline on setting these goals at the board level.
So to stimulate discussion, I'll just tell you what I'm doing. I'm writing down listening sessions, question mark, page 254. I think that was right.
Yep.
And then under measurement, I'm also on annual family and community survey. I'm going to write more surveys? Question mark. And I would just encourage all of us to just start thinking about, as a board, how you would like to do this. Because, if you like the listening session idea, that's an idea that this fella has promoted and sounds pretty interesting, maybe pretty good. But what do you think? Would you rather do something else? So I think that's, sort of a springboard for your own thinking as a board about where you might like to go. Or do we need, maybe some other kind of facilitator to guide us, in which case, who would we like to ask? But anyway, just start thinking about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you have thoughts tonight, don't be shy.
Do we think anybody would come?
I think if you structure it the right way, yes. I think, so what I've done in the past, just, not that anyone wants to come spend time with me, except you did. Thank you. Originally I tried to set up shop at a coffee shop or something and just announce those days. And actually, when I got here, we were remote too, so I did some remote ones. And, I believe maybe 5 people total took advantage of that. I then switched it to, I sent out invitations to as many businesses, churches, organizations, saying, I have a projector and a slideshow, and I'll come to you. I got a pretty good response to that. So I would go to, meetings that were already scheduled, and they'd put me on their agenda for 10 minutes or something like that. Other places, I was the meeting, and they came just for that purpose. And I could go back and get the numbers, but I would say I hit somewhere around 200 people all told in doing that. And what I was doing was just delivering a state of the district address, basically, of here's where we are, here's what we've been doing, and then opening it up to questions. So taking it to them, I got a much better response. And so I think if you find activities that are already going on, I have not, just an example, at a football game, if the board set up a kiosk or something, and the superintendent or whatever, and ask me questions, or, learn about this, or whatever it might be. If we go to where people already are, I would think you'd get some good interactions. And then, of course, if a meeting is already scheduled, going to that, so they don't have to schedule another one, whether it's the organization or whatever. So I think it can work. I would say I had a specific agenda and topics that I was covering. So it's not just an open, hey, the board or some board members are going to be at Cabin Creek at 5 o'clock. They might be there, but we're talking about these specific items. Then if people are interested in those items, that gives them a little nudge to attend. So.
I would have to go back and read that chapter on guardrails, because that's what we're looking for, correct? The community guardrails.
Yes, and also,
Values.
I'm losing which chapter, but
Yeah.
the definition, well, I guess it actually comes from, oh, shoot, I didn't print that up. So Anna was saying she'd like us to have a conversation around academics and programs and the board self-evaluation. Yep, thank you. Because one of your self-evaluation goals is academic performance, and in that it has a number of indicators, and one of them is well, where is it? Ensure indicators that define student achievement are established. And so he talks about, basically a graduate profile. What do we want our students to be when they graduate? And I think his example was you need to know what the community wants, what the community values. Because right now we're kind of in flux of, we're just focusing on assessment data, but we absolutely know there's so much more to what we want our students to be able to do. I think one of his early examples was to get out in the community and see, what they value, college, career, other things. So, and then also defining, which would tie nicely into the board self-evaluation as well. What was your question? I feel like
Why we wanted to go, or
Yeah.
what were your specific questions when you went into the community?
Yeah, so you wouldn't just be going in to find the guardrails. You'd also be finding what success looks like to the community and being able to define some of those achievement pieces.
Okay. Could we put, if we're interested in doing outreach in this fashion, could we put that on November's workshop to kind of flesh out what it might look like, or where we might go to reach?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. If that's going to be,
Unless it's just a
pillar in
flat
our
no.
strategic plan, we want to flesh that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like a couple of things you just said on that topic, though, Dave. What does success look like? That's a great question for our community. And also, what do you want your students to be able to do?
Yeah.
It's a very, very fair question, and goes right to the core of what we're doing to prepare our students to be successful members of their communities.
And that work was essentially done back in 2020 with the portrait of a graduate. And so just bringing them back up, and that'd be good talking points, I think, to go through and say, is this still what we see? Because when it was developed in 2020, I think the world's slightly different than it was at that point. So maybe we need to add to it, change it, subtract it. But we'd have a framework we could work from if you wanted to. Okay, so we are multitasking between book study and goals.
Are you trying to get home to the football game?
Yes, no, no, not. What time does it start, by the way? 7? And what is it, 6:30? All right. So just to go back over that again, family and community partnership goal area, I think, is where we really, according to our book study, that's where we need to spend a lot of time. And then next would be academics and programs, student outcomes. I feel like the board was fairly comfortable with what we had talked about, where you're talking about 15% and 10 percentage point increases using the spring state assessment. And I know it's not just state assessment, because we talked about Brigance and Acadiance data. I didn't want to put it on a document until I had a chance to catch up with Steph Piper to make sure that we're saying it the right way, because proficiency on those tests, I don't know if that's the right terminology, but we would we definitely want to use Brigance and Acadience and NWEA at the K-1-2 level to the best of our ability, but they're not state assessments, so we'd be bringing them into that statement somehow. But essentially, I think the metrics would be the same, a 15 and 10-point improvement in that data. And not the prior to kindergarten, but from kindergarten to first to second. And then the other piece was the academic equity goal of reducing the proficiency gap in each of those areas by 50%. So if the gap, and I think we just need to, it'd be an aggregate, both of these could be aggregate, bless you, all subjects, what is the proficiency, or by grade level, we could break it down as well. But whatever the gap is, aggregate or broken down, we'd be looking to reduce it by half by 2030. And then, bless you, in our book study, look at this, book study, he talked about having 3 leading indicators for each goal. And so I just kind of threw it out there. Like Dr. Lawson said, our standard assessment system is going to be our primary leading indicator system, as far as this one's concerned. But then I also threw in the academic performance accountability goals from MASB, because it lists out all of those indicators, and as you check those indicators off, you can monitor that you're making progress. So, number 1 in the board self-evaluation is commit to a vision of high expectations for all students. And we can all say we have high expectations, or we can do the work to, like, what does that mean? What does it look like? Those sorts of things, which then feeds back into our community engagement of what is the community view as part of this. So I think we have a pretty good, not true leading indicators, but pieces that have to be in place that will support that state assessment or standard assessment system. And I think we've covered 3 of the 4 chapters already. I will just move ahead. Personnel's in pretty good shape, I believe, from what I heard. We would need to just square up increase the district's mean engagement score to the 50th percentile. It's currently the 26th percentile. The language is 50th percentile or no, I'm sorry, I did clean up that language because I had an ambiguous statement. But we'd be looking to increase the percentile and the mean score. The early indicator system there would be the Raymond data, as we administer the pulse and the full survey over those years. And then the retention goal, talking to Michelle, we could do quarterly reviews of our retention and other components that go along with that as far as the induction and mentoring and those pieces. And those could be indicators.
Could I ask a question about the budget, since we're kind of on that right now? I was reading the paper, we got, what is it, a 25% increase in Michigan State School Aid Act, Section 31.
Oh,
How much of an increase was that? Do you know, like dollar-wise?
31A or 31AA, but I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I can't answer your question.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know the whole, like, IA thing still is, doesn't sit real well with everything that kind of happened. And I was just looking at that we did get an increase in that, and some of that can go towards stipends or different things like that. And I think that might even be a great thing for retention or employee, that pillar right there.
so if it's 31AA, that's, they're calling it mental health for students.
For the economically disadvantaged?
31A at-risk funding. So that has to be spent on students. There's a 10% allowance for administration, or no?
I think 30%
No?
for the,
No, nothing for administration in 31A.
but there
So
was
staffing?
staffing
You
though,
can
not
support
administration.
individual staff members. they have to be doing,
You have,
With the
specific things
students
to
that are
those students,
economically
yeah.
disadvantaged.
yeah.
Have we thought about something like that?
Yeah, yes, we've spent extensive,
you can't give a blanket stipend to every IA in the district under 31A. Their position has to be tied to 31A initiatives, so, which are basically the same as Title I initiatives, support in reading, support in math. So your IAs would have to be working with the children on that under the supervision of a teacher. So it would be their regular wages. There's no, like Title II has some retention stipends in it, which we use to supplement the special ed teacher stipend that's written into their contract. But 31A, to my knowledge, is not allowable for a stipend for retention or to just plain out increase wages for a certain group.
and so we have, at least 3 times with the IAs gone back to increase their wages in between contract negotiations. We did it probably twice with COVID's, incentives. I don't know what the term is. When you're dealing with a collectively bargained agreement, they don't like it when you single out 1, 2, 5 staff members. They want it to go to the entire group, so that's a challenge, especially if you're talking 31A, because not all students, or not all IAs might be working in a role that meets the requirements of 31A.
Okay.
So, 2 things. Number one, Mary's going to go into the budget impact with us at the regular meeting next week, so we can have a bit more of a conversation there of what all these numbers look like and what they mean. And then, going back to our book, his example is, those are budget conversations, as the budget is being prepared. So as we hit February, March, April, in preparation for creating that next, that'd be the more appropriate time to,
Bring it up.
yeah, you can certainly obviously discuss it at any time, but as far as the cycle's concerned,
Yeah. I'm
he
just
tied
thinking-
it back to the budget creation.
Yeah, I'm just thinking towards our goals though for retention and, that would be,
So, yes, we had a conversation via chat this weekend where I said, let's just raise the salaries, the hourly wages to X. And our history is, it doesn't make a difference. More money doesn't take away the stress of the position. It doesn't take away the, what you're dealing with on a daily basis. And as our experience has been, again, I think 3 or 4 times, it's probably 3 times outside of contractual negotiations, we've gone back to each one of our, IAs, bus drivers, custodians, food service, secretaries, to raise wages, and we didn't see a decrease in turnover. And in some cases, closer to 2020, COVID and all of that, we saw higher rates of turnover, but we've not seen a direct correlation to increasing wages and people staying.
And comparing our IA wages, hourly wages to other districts, our size and that, we are not underpaying them.
Now, does everyone say, if you paid me more money, I'll stay? Absolutely. We hear this message constantly. But I think, the research would support that it doesn't have an impact, and in our own experience, it has not had the impact we hoped it would.
And would it be fair to say that we're still sort of dealing with competition from other kinds of employers who are raising, their wages a little bit so that they're more competitive and therefore we're less so? Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
It's something that I've been hearing also, and I'm kind of wondering, well, is that a real thing?
Yeah. Thinking back, whenever the hospital raised its wages, entry wages to 15, whatever it was, an hour, we responded and did the same. But what we have, and I don't know about the hospital, but, other places that, bus drivers, we always have our salaries, our wages compared to, other bus driving companies. We have a pension that we pay into, and our employees benefit from that pension. That, as we've talked, is roughly 54 cents on every dollar on top of, every employee hourly dollar. We pay an additional 54 cents into that pension, and then the individual gets that money back to some degree through the pension when they retire. Private companies may not, most likely do not offer that, and so they compensate for that by, no pun intended, having a higher hourly compensation rate. One of the challenges is, this is all written into contracts and state laws and those sorts of things that we have to do this. But also we're seeing that people aren't really interested in the pension because it's so far off in the future. So while it is a pretty good benefit that public school employees receive, someone who's taking their first job and making whatever wage may not see the value of a pension 30 years from now, 25 years from now, or whatever, when I can go next door and do the same job for a couple bucks more an hour. But just to reiterate, I feel in the 5 years that I've been here, we've been very good with compensation for our employees. We've gone back multiple times at our decision to, increase, provide stipends, do those sorts of things. And that's important because we are doing our best to take care of our employees financially. And then the flip side is if we raise them to $20, $30 an hour or whatever their first offer was in negotiations, what are we going to cut? Because we don't have a way to raise money. We have a fixed income, and we have to be good financial stewards of the community's resources. And, it's just difficult. I'd love to raise everyone's rates and that, but there's a financial implication to doing that too.
Having said that, I'm going to just raise the rabbit hole alarm,
Sorry.
as soon as we can, let's get back to the
Okay,
book
back to the
study
book study.
and the strategic planning discussion. I would be remiss if I didn't remind us that's what we're supposed to be doing right now. But this is all very relevant. I don't want to shut down any conversations.
I guess,
And I would just say, so we'll go through categoricals, 31A, 31A, and all that, because we do have Mary doing a budget impact statement, presentation to the board. If you have any other questions around the budget, if we can fit it into her presentation.
Well, yeah, I'm just thinking like with this goal, how to incentivize to be able to get this retention rate that we want.
Mhm.
So I don't know what other plan would be to incentivize to reach that goal.
Yeah, you want,
So,
is it okay?
One of the things we've already started is that we only are starting people on Monday so that we can do an orientation with them, because we're really not doing an orientation. So you're walking into a job and just starting that morning and hoping that your principal has time to meet with you and they're not in another crisis. So a lot of it has to go with onboarding to start with, and then also doing 30, 60, and 90-day check-ins with the new staff, just to see if they're doing okay, see if they need more assistance. None of that stuff has been done. So taking the whole financial piece off of the table and just talking about other things that we can do, there's a lot of things that we can do to offset just making the employee understand their role, better recruiting, and making them feel more comfortable once they are here and meeting their needs while they're here.
AJ, I think AJ, you wanted to say something.
oh, well, I was going to jump the conversation though slightly, so.
Oh, can
Monica,
I
go ahead.
add something real
Nope.
quick? I was at an APS, one of the schools this week, and they were talking about the new hires for the teachers that were hired this year and how happy they are and how they are all hanging out. Like they're a group of teachers, and so I think you did great with that, Michelle, with bringing them all in together and making them group up when they got here. I think that was great.
Yeah, our first 2 days, well, our first day with new hires was outstanding, and,
And they're all still together.
yep, it's good to see.
Yeah.
Michelle, do the IAs that are new, or even the current IAs, do they have like a mentor they can go to if they're having difficulties?
No,
with?
that's something we need to
Yeah, I think that
It's on
the list.
some of the lists that we need to start addressing with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. AJ, I think you want.
Yep, I'm not in a hurry.
Go ahead.
I don't like football. So on the staff topic, kind of, page 222, staff allocation. He goes into talking about how teachers are placed in the school system. And I was wondering how it works in our system.
So I was just going to see, I don't remember exactly what he said about it, but first off, there's certifications that allow teachers to teach in certain subjects, grade levels, and those sorts of things. And then if they have, dual certifications or sorts of things, they might shift if they get a new certification or they want to utilize another portion of their credentials to do that.
But it's their choice. I guess that's what he, trying to remember how it,
Yeah, he said, like, no, they don't just get to pick.
it's not a,
There's a
union,
process to it.
a union bid. I remember years ago, it was bid night.
Yeah. So a position has to be open, and then we take bids on that position. But someone can't just wake up and say, I want to go to fifth grade now, and bump someone else or things like that. But
I guess his take on it, though, was more back to this, if you have a troubled area, are you able to shift teachers? If I'm remembering.
yeah, like, do you have the best teacher or just the most senior teacher in the
Right.
position?
And so how does that work in our system? So let's say, third grade Ella White, we have a problem there that class is underperforming. Can you pull that teacher and replace that teacher, or is that their position and you have a union issue?
Yes, the short answer is the contract dictates how that process plays out. And essentially, if you haven't identified a concern and provided the support and let enough time pass where there's no improvement made, you have different choices than just, 1 year bad performance, let's move someone into that position.
Can you repeat that last part, or that last sentence for me, Dave?
So it's really about the pattern of identifying the issues and a pattern of supporting the teacher and then potentially not seeing improvement after a period of time. Then we have flexibility in how to move people. But if you just, after 1 year, decide that, this isn't right for you and we need to move you, then we're pretty restricted in our ability to do that.
Okay. So that is why you guys do your monitoring early winter or after the second semester starts, correct? So that you can have that, you can do the observing, take any possible corrective action, and see result or change before the end of the year. I'm just
Yes,
asking for
in
my
theory.
clarification.
And again, if it's a tenure teacher versus a non-tenure teacher, those timelines look very different. You would not, with the exception of the most egregious examples, be able to say to someone within a 6-month period or 8-month period that we're now going to move you based on that performance. That period allowing them to improve has to extend over the year and not just within a couple of months, unless it's egregious. But even at that, it enters into a partnership between the union and the administration. So is that fair to?
Okay, so
I will also add that there's conversations with principals too. And last year, we did a kind of informal survey, is there anybody that wants to move around? So that when we're posting jobs, we kind of have an idea of what to recruit for, and just had those open conversations. Not everyone got to move to the selected spots that they wanted to, but we were able to move a majority of them whether they were teaching at different elementary schools or buildings or grades or whatever the case may be.
I wish I could remember how he, so basically our hands are kind of tied if we see a problem. I'm sorry, when I say we, I'm thinking you guys, or if the data shows us a problem to the board that you bring to us. Okay, let me back that statement up just a second, Dave.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to tie it into his statement on the interim metrics. So you bring us next year's 5th grade math hasn't changed. But we're already 6 months in. We say what's going on in this classroom or grade level.
Mm-hmm.
There's a minimum of another year before any corrective action is taken.
I don't, no. No. If you're not improving and that teacher is struggling, we have instructional coaches in place, we have Title I in place, and that will be between the administration and the support staff that is in that building to help that teacher.
I wasn't saying that it had to come to us, Sarah.
Okay.
That's not what I was saying.
How long? Like, how
Yeah.
long do you let that happen and
That
go on
was, I
for,
guess,
where you're
where
not
my-
getting the improvement?
Yeah.
And
is
I
what
was
he's asking.
tying it back to the ability of administration to move staff.
Mhm.
Because when I read that, I thought, that's a good question, because then it flips who has the power.
Yeah, management rights, employee, you know.
Yeah, so, and I didn't understand how it worked in our system, and now you've laid it out, that technically there's a year.
It's hard to make a blanket statement, not knowing but yes.
Yeah, and I have no specifics.
So I think two big difference. He's in Texas, and from what I understand, Texas is not a union state. And so he probably, in the districts he works in, the superintendent could probably go in and say, you're now teaching over here, and you're now teaching over there. We cannot do that, nor would we necessarily want to do that. With our collectively bargained agreements and, Michigan labor law, there does have to be a period to allow them to be supported, identify the problems, provide the supports through title, or, instructional coaches or whatever it might be. And they have to have time to, implement those changes and see improvements. There have been times, you as a board member sat in on the end of that process, and that was, I think that was less than a year from when we initially identified, a concern. It goes back to what is the issue. If student safety is an issue,
Well,
that
he had it tied into student outcomes, which the whole point of this
Yeah.
operation.
yeah,
And I guess what I'm driving at is we've identified something. It's a year's time. You've just lost that percent, would it be a year out of that student's abilities? You've pretty much put that student over a barrel already. And the chances of that student catching up are pretty well limited. So I guess I'm not going anywhere with that. I was asking for clarification on how it worked, and then I'm expressing my distaste for how it has to be.
But, number one, we have a good partnership with each of our unions, and we're speaking specifically of our teachers' union here. The narrative out there is that once you're, we can never get rid of you, and that's not our goal, but we're very fortunate that our teachers union here has partnered with us when they too have seen concerns that, we would rather not bleed into 2, 3, 4 years in it. So they've been a good partner in support. We don't have unilateral decision-making in this, and so, I would go back to, there's a process. We can talk about that process in a little more detail at an upcoming workshop or something like that, to answer any questions, but.
I guess I think my point that I want to highlight is that we're putting the teachers ahead of the students on that one.
That's one way to look at it, but that's if you have a problem.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to ask that question maybe, I think I might be asking the same question, but it really, really differently. So I guess I would be curious to see, if you look at page 237, there's this discussion of deploying interim metrics with the superintendent's leadership team. And of course, the superintendent, in a sense, is sort of an odd duck. Sometimes he looks like a board member. He's talking with the board, working on things. But then he looks like a staff member, because he runs the entire organization. So I thought that was really great that the author acknowledged the superintendent's special role in that regard. But how do we feel as far as these pages like 238, 239? I thought these were interesting because it really discusses the way. It sort of somebody should make a video. It's like how a bill becomes a law. Remember those Saturday morning things? If somebody did that for these few pages, I think it'd be really great because it talks about how we go, from a desire for a particular outcome and tracks it through different levels of the organization, and and what happens, when we need to fine tune that process. So how are we feeling about our organization's responsiveness and ability to look like what he's describing, I guess, a little bit.
And that's to me or to the board?
To you.
I would say we have all these pieces in place. The strategic plan is leveraging all of these pieces so that they're working together. Because right now, I think we have so many positive things that are going on, and we could point to many points of success or, even areas of concern. But what we don't have is that system that puts it into this process and monitors, reports out, makes adjustments, and communicates. So. Okay,
great. I think I understand better. And I think that for the board, I think that the way that goal, that larger goal of fitting these sorts of things into our strategic plan makes this our time with this book make a little bit more sense because I think it really actually there's some very nice ways of dovetailing these things in with our larger discussion. So I just wanted to hear you. I kind of figured I knew what the answer would be, but I wanted to hear you say it because I knew you'd say it very well. So I think that for me, I feel like that is one of the reasons that we're trusting our superintendent to take to lead on this issue, because I think we're really starting to. It's a scaffolding in a sense. A scaffolding of all these pieces in place to try to get to the point where we really are measuring what we want to measure and getting things in place to deal with shortcomings when we find them.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. I had highlighted just before that, it says the trouble is that goals and guardrails are lag measures in that by the time you know the data, it's too late to make a difference, which is kind of what you're talking about, AJ. And that's from the board's perspective. By the time you know who wins the game, it's too late to impact who will win the game. So the next step in the process is for the superintendent to develop interim goals and interim guardrails that are lead measures. And so that's why you see some of these leading indicators.
Top of page 235, if you want to look at it.
That was actually the other thing I had pulled out of the readings. What do you have some interim things in mind already? I'm thinking the biggest one would be the academics one. And like you just read, by the time you give us this data, it's
Mhm.
kind of almost useless to have.
It's useless
Yeah,
if the board was going to be making the decisions at the classroom level, then yeah, by the time you get the M-STEP data, and by the time we get the M-STEP data, it's too late. But you are, a big piece of your lag measurement is that annual progress towards the goals. So there's very appropriate, like that's our ultimate measure on an interim basis towards that 2030 goal. But what we are putting together is between now and the M-STEP, what are those interims? So we administer the NWEA 3 times a year, and so you'll be hearing a report on the winter administration of it, and we'll be telling you, we're seeing good things in the results, or, we've got some adjustments to make, and we're making them. But beyond that, like right now, our standard assessment system, outside of NWEA, we've got, and we'll be presenting, where we're at on this. We've got a lot of pieces. We've got assessments at, 10th grade science or 5th grade math. But do we have K-12 math, mapped out interim standard assessments? Not yet. In some cases we do. So that's a part of the goals that we were talking about with the strategic plan. We know what we need this standard assessment system to do. For you and for us, it's an interim assessment process. Are we heading in the right direction? And there's another point, but I lost what the other point was. But we know we don't have it K-12 in all of the subjects, and so we need to build that, and building it is part of the progress towards being able to have these measures. Where we have them, we can report and we can respond to the data, but we don't have them everywhere right now, and so that's the work that we're doing, is making sure that we've got them everywhere.
okay.
So kind of along it, I'm always hesitant to talk about removing teachers, removing staff like that, in a public meeting. And that's just one of the challenges of being at a public meeting. Because we've got teachers, we've got IAs, staff members that are hearing these words, and they're making their own meaning of what I'm saying right now, or what you're saying. And we've all experienced this recently, right? Where you say something and someone comes with a completely different, you said that, no, I didn't say that. So we just want to proceed with caution. And I think he spoke well of it on page 244. Performance management, psychological safety. We know we got to be accountable. People are not necessarily comfortable being held accountable. We have to have real conversations, identify real problems and address them. But what he says is there's a downside to it too. So he said implementing rigorous and public project management and performance management systems can create anxiety and, when misused, a toxic work environment. It is easy for these systems to be used in punitive and embarrassing ways that demoralize and humiliate staff. This isn't just horrible because of its impact on the affected staff, but also because it'll contribute to a culture of hiding issues rather than acknowledging them, of protectionism rather than measured risk-taking that could benefit the students. It's the reality, when we talk about things like, how easy is it to move a staff member, or, we talked about it at last meeting too. Is this a cycle of continuous improvement, or is this, no, you missed this mark and now we need to take drastic measures? We can have those conversations just in light of the fact that someone's probably thinking we are right now creating a toxic environment, or have, and we just need to be careful. Especially if we start assigning poor performance publicly to someone or something.
I think maybe that'd be fair to say that's part of the concern about making board goals that drill down at too low a level, because that really highlights something that probably would be better handled by administration. You know, I was just thinking as you were talking about that, in a sense, as far as handling the board, we're like a school bus. And our administrators, particularly, you know, when you start to get down towards, you know, the building level, they're like Porsche Boxsters. They can turn on a dime and be very responsive, whereas the school bus just sort of lumbers along. So, you know, that's one reason I think that keeping those goals at the right level is useful, because then you're using your vehicles the way they were intended.
Yeah.
Of course, it had to be a boy analogy, sorry. That's kind of how I think.
I'm not sure exactly where we are, but if we are moving to whole child development, probably have one. Oop, sorry. You got one? So I always say NEMSCA, but it's NEMCASA, will be here next week, and it's a little bit out of alignment because it being a regular board meeting. But they're coming to talk about everything that they do to support us in reducing chronic absenteeism. So I thought I would share this with you because I kind of hashed out a little bit more of a goal statement, because I don't think we had a goal statement in whole child last time, but we were kind of focusing on attendance as probably a good area for the board to focus on. So what you have is attendance breakdown over the last, 10 years or 8 years or something like that at each building. And there's some key headings, you know, percent chronically absent, percent not chronically absent, and then overall attendance rate. And so the overall attendance rate does not necessarily correlate to the chronic absenteeism rates in the building. And you'll just kind of see that how that whole chart works out. But what I've put on your long sheet here is perhaps the appropriate goal would be, and I apologize for the grammar on this, but achieve and maintain a chronic absenteeism rate of 10% or less at each building. So you see some of them have pretty high chronic absenteeism rates. I think our lowest was 13% at one of the schools. So even there's room to improve at that school. It would ebb and flow from year to year, but if the goal is to get everyone to 10% or less and maintain it, some school that gets to that next year, their goal then would be to maintain it, you know, for the next 4 years through that. So the wording may not be the best, but wanted you to have that data and just kind of look through. Because I think our conversation was, at the older grade levels, there's a clear urgency. But there also is kind of, if you're focusing on that percentage that's chronically absent across the district, so. And then Dorothy and Elizabeth will be coming next week to have an in-depth conversation about everything they do for our students. And we can dive into these numbers a little bit more at that time, too.
Have we identified why such a change in the high school and junior high on absence? Why?
Of recent, or?
Of the last 4 years, pretty much after COVID is when it kind of took a dive.
Yeah.
Have we kinda-
there's a nationwide trend in, disengagement from school. I think as early as 4th grade has been a long-standing, data point where students kind of reach the height of their engagement at 3rd, 4th grade, and then you see it taper off in many cases, not all, but. But remember too that 2 years ago, 22, 23, there was a reporting error at the high school, and so you see that sharp drop. That was the result of that. And then we've been reporting our family partnership students' attendance incorrectly, and also, and so family partnership students are attributed to one of our buildings. The family partnership doesn't have its own entity, and so you'll see some cleanup there. So an elementary student that's in, family partnership might be attributed to Besser or Ella White. And so I think online students as well, which would primarily impact the high school, but would impact the junior high possibly a little bit. There were some coding issues that we're working through to clean that up. So all of those could result to lower numbers, but even if, they accounted for 5 of the 10 points dropped, there's still a drop outside of those things.
And if I remember, we have sort of a new attendance guru who is really helping us sort a lot of this out.
Yeah. We got Shauna Boyd, who's from Alcona. She's working for us now. We had a pupil accountant that was here for 20-plus years, and she was wonderful, and she held all the information, and then she left us. And so now having fresh eyes come in and take a look and finding some things, so.
Are ACEs and, just to clarify, ACEs and online students, are they part of our attendance? Because I know ACEs has, 2 and 2 days.
Yeah. Yes.
So they are part of, okay.
So they would be, APS online students would be.
Okay.
And I don't recall the details exactly, but we weren't reporting, we weren't recording is probably the better. When they interact with the class at home, that wasn't being coded correctly in Synergy showing that they were doing that. So it looks like they were absent a lot more than they were.
Okay.
And as well, attendance falls into the family and community partnership as well, family engagement.
Are you, is it 10%? Oh, it is at each building. That
So-
might be a pretty big bite in a few places.
Yes, yeah.
Is this
And
another hairy, audacious goal?
I think so.
Okay.
So, elementaries, I don't remember what the highest chronic absenteeism was at the elementaries.
I think I
but-
seen 26.
Okay, I was going to say 30 or somewhere in
Yeah,
there. so,
somewhere.
That's obviously very different than 70 or 80 or 40. So there might be some tweaking to this goal, which is why I shared the data with you. So you can kind of go through, and then when NEMSCA comes, we can hopefully focus it into something that is good.
And I think it might be all right in a way too for the board just to make some brave goals, because you got to start somewhere, and then you go over it, for a year, and you find out how you did. Staff, comes back and says, that was entirely unrealistic. Why did you do that to us? Or they could say, wow, we can actually do better than that. So you just never know. But you got to start somewhere. So I think that's perfectly fair to, if you have to pick a number, pick a number.
Yeah.
Do what you can based on what you know.
Yep. So for the purposes of next week and the board adopting goals, in the academics and programs, if we included the language to include, the K2, K1-2 assessments, and what else? Oh, and then the question of, do we want to look at it, you want to look at it by grade level, by content, versus district aggregate. And if you do it by grade level, that's fine, but that's going to take some more detailing out of how we're actually going to measure that.
I think we should do it by district, and, because grade level that should be in the buildings.
So what I envision, if that's the case, you have a proficiency level for fall, or well, it's actually spring of '25, but we're just getting it now. So you have a fall aggregate for ELA for the district. some of these interim leading indicators could then speak directly to, like, we would be creating the interim and leading indicator reports. So we would be reporting out on individual grade level progress towards that overall aggregation.
I think Sarah's right. Let's do the aggregate for us. I guess I would like to, like you showed us at,
Yeah.
was it September's, all the
Yeah.
data?
Still show us all the data.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But your goal is just an aggregate,
Yeah.
one ELA, one math.
Otherwise, it'd be way too
Yeah.
big of a
Okay.
goal, if, is how I viewed it.
Yep. And then as we build the interim and leading and the reporting process, it touches on all those finer details. Yeah. Okay. And so same thing then, we would just take a district gap of economically advantaged and disadvantaged, and we would, look at the proficiencies for those two, and we'd track those throughout the time period. Okay. Whole child, we will work on next week. Personnel. Do you feel that we're pretty close on that, focusing on percentile, mean score, and retention rate?
If Michelle feels like she can get there.
5 years.
Okay.
Progress every year. Family and community partnership, I think, needs probably a couple of meetings and, to build that plan, and, that goal may come a little bit later. And then the one change I didn't make, Anna had suggested in stewardship, maintain a fiscally responsible budget. Your board policy says 10% or more for the fund balance. So I would just be specific in that it's 10% or more according to board policy versus meets the board's fund balance policy.
Yep. Sound good?
Yeah.
We're content with the 10%?
I was going to say,
That was a discussion that was.
I think we've been kind of warned.
We are okay with the 10%. We're well above it, but,
But I-
once you start locking in higher percentages, you could see swings that put us in violation of the board policy that we have nothing to do with, so. And the industry standard is, you would say 17 to 19%, but I think it's 15 to 17%, so. Is that right?
We couldn't have a higher goal to try to reach. Even though it's supposed to be 10%, we can't say 15
Well,
as a goal.
As a goal is different than changing
Yes.
the policy.
So we could
Yes.
have a goal of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what do you
Yeah,
think
she
of that?
does, but
Mary?
we want to keep it high for Mary, right?
Well, it needs to be reasonable coverage in case something happens. I mean, there's been years where one year they took over $600,000 out. After the budget was closed out in June, they took it in August.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for things like that. And economic downturns, for years that you don't get a per pupil foundation allowance increase to help cover your negotiated wages and things. And so you need that there for those things too.
It's not really a goal if we're setting the goal at the established baseline, correct? I mean, policy says 10%, that's not a goal to go above.
Yeah.
So Monica's right, why not set the goal slightly higher, and then, policy still holds us to the minimum.
Yeah.
And then
Mary,
Mary's
I
happier.
agree, I mean.
Mary, do you think
I think you
15% would be
like that.
attainable?
It's just the,
We're already above 15%.
Oh,
So, I mean, Goldman, there you go.
You want to do 20, Mary?
oh, let's not push it.
Would it be appropriate to set the goal at 15,
15.
knowing that policy establishes a baseline of 10?
10.
Mary's happy, and we hopefully move in the right direction?
Okay.
Maybe the
I-
goal would just say something about maintaining.
maintain
That level.
15%.
Maintaining
10%
10% with a
Yeah.
goal of 15.
Goal to maintain 15%.
Yep.
Policies.
Policy, okay, yeah.
Yeah, policy is 10, and the goal would be to add a
Maintain
cushion on top of
15,
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
okay.
Works for me.
All right, so I think I'm good.
No skipping down the hall, Mary.
I think that's everything, and I think we covered the book in depth, so.
Yeah. Any last thoughts on the book? This may be, I think, your last chance.
As
to,
far, I'm sorry,
if you had any other last thoughts on the book.
not on the book, no.
Okay. All right, go ahead then.
You didn't read the book, did you?
You know, I listened to it on my way to work. It's kind of hard to make notes while you're driving, though.
Yeah.
Long-term range facility planning, to develop a 5-year facility master plan. And then, since this is kind of the 30,000 for facilities, does that fall within the purview of the board then, or is that still more at the building level, I guess? Because there are some larger goals, those wish list items for the district
Yeah.
that I think would fall within the board. Obviously, the other things wouldn't, so kind of wondering how you want to break that down.
Yeah, it's a good question. And Eric and I were just talking today about how complex the long-term plan that we've got ready to roll out is, and how do we capture that in goals to some degree, other than just get a plan done. So that might need more time. I mean, you haven't seen the long-term proposals. You haven't seen the wish lists, which will be rolling out here. So maybe we want to take some time with that portion of it.
So I think some of those will actually filter in with the community partnership, because there are some concerns at a community level for facilities issues that would mesh together very well.
Yeah. Yeah, so the plan is we've got our wish list completed, and we had our administrators go through and just give their rankings for it. And we just need to compile it and get it ready to send it out to the board, the staff, and the community to get their ranking input on what the wish list items are. From that, then we build that 3 to 5 year plan of what was it? Nice to have, right? That was the.
Yes,
say,
that's what
Nice to
that's what
have,
the moms, yeah.
not wish
Yep.
list. So nice to have items. So that might give us some good direction on, certainly we get the board's input on, this is a priority for the board. This isn't. This is a 2-3 year, whatever it might be. So I think it'd be appropriate to say the 15% we're all comfortable with. We can set that in stone right now, and then we need to flesh out the long-term plan a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so does that conclude our board goals and book study
I believe it
portion
does.
of
For
the
me, it
meeting?
does.
Yeah, anybody else lingering questions?
Burning desires.
Doesn't look like it. Okay. Then we'll proceed. That brings us to charitable gifts, which we don't have to go over right now, but that is, we'll cover those next time. And then, that brings us then to public comment. And I know you'll all be thrilled. I have another statement on public comment. So if we're ready to dive into that. So I just wanted to say I hope everyone has come today prepared to model respect, maturity, and our best adult behavior for our students and our community. I believe many who attend our meetings don't really understand why I was asking that there be no applause or other outbursts in our meetings, including following public comment. And perhaps many don't remember the emotionally charged meetings during COVID when dozens or even maybe hundreds came to our meetings to protest masking and other policies. For those who supported those policies, I remember well the dejection and defeat in their eyes as they were overwhelmed by the opposition. And I would hope that everyone would want an environment of respect where we reject bullying and attempts to silence those with whom we disagree. So that's just the culture I was trying to create. Our board policy states that individuals addressing the board must take into consideration the rules of common courtesy. Public comment should not be used to make personal attacks against a school board member or school district employee by name. However, you may name a board member in reference to his or her actions as a board member in a public meeting. Therefore, attacks or criticism for board members' personal choices outside a meeting or other aspects of their personal lives are off limits and will constitute disorderly speech. Remember, you are addressing the board and not other members of the public or district staff. Additionally, public comment does not exist for non-members to get into sparring matches with each other and attack each other or engage in endless retorts. Such comments will be considered repetitive and out of order. Any outbursts or attempts to interrupt a speaker while that person is making use of his or her 3 minutes before the board will result in the offending party being asked to leave. Our policy states that the presiding officer may request any individual to stop speaking and or leave the meeting when that person behaves in a manner that is disruptive, and may request the assistance of law enforcement in the removal of a disorderly person. Regarding applause, I think the person who brought the toothbrush last time said it best. Polite applause, concluding before the next speaker arrives at the podium to speak, is something we all can live with. But now everyone knows, because I'm sure people researched it very thoroughly, that guests in our meeting may not disrupt our proceedings or the public comment of others, and you can believe it, not because I have said it, but you've heard it elsewhere as well. So thank you for attending our meeting, thank you for your engagement, and thank you for your cooperation. Let's begin. Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Sanders. I live, pay taxes, and vote in Alpena County. Excuse me. And I want to use my 3 minutes simply to pray over our school system and members of the board here. Father in heaven, 1 Timothy 2:1 and 2 commands that petitions, prayers, and intercession and thanksgiving be made for all people, for kings and those in authority, that we may live peaceful and quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. So tonight, Lord, I lift up this school board before you. I ask that your peace would rest upon this room, that anger would be calmed, that fear would be silenced, and that respect and civility would rule every word spoken here. I pray for every board member, every teacher, every parent, every student represented here. I ask that you would grant these leaders wisdom from above, pure, peaceable, gentle, and full of mercy. Give them courage to do what is right in your sight, not swayed by pressure or popularity, but anchored in truth and in the fear of the Lord, which Scripture says is the beginning of wisdom. Protect them and their families from harm, from intimidation, and from burnout. Shine your light in this district, a light that exposes deceit, reveals truth, and cannot be hidden or silenced. Lord, we pray for the children, Generation Alpha, growing up in a world of noise and confusion, more connected to screens than to souls. We ask that the holy seed you spoke of in Isaiah 6:13 would spring forth in them, a generation healed from the wounds of society, of divorce, identity confusion, and despair. May they discover who they truly are in you, loved, chosen, and full of divine purpose. Lord, let our classrooms be filled not with fear, but with your love, your mercy, and the truth. Let every teacher become a beacon of hope in their lives. Every hallway a place of safety. Every decision made here a step toward righteousness and restoration. And finally, Lord, I pray that the atmosphere of all of our schools and in this boardroom would be one not of hostility, but one of honor, not chaos, but calm, not division, but discernment. And may your kingdom come, your will be done right here in this community. And thank you.
I'm Yvonne Johnson. I live, pay taxes, and vote in Alpena Township. At the September regular meeting, Board Member Hanson chastised the public about the content of public comments at recent meetings, saying there had been a significant amount of banter from both sides of the aisle regarding LGBTQ issues. There has been nothing on the agenda related to that for several months, Hanson said. Therefore, this discussion's kind of a moot point at this time. Now, might it become an important conversation later? Absolutely, I don't know. But right now, as we're trying to move forward, we're not even talking about it. This is simply a time that's being consumed by differing viewpoints arguing during our meetings. So I ask that you just be aware of that. Mr. Hanson's misleading remarks about the public comments are important for a couple reasons. First, nearly all the public's comments from that September meeting were specific to recent board action. The majority of remarks centered on the clapping ban, bid award irregularities, and student test scores, and the data. The public also pushed back on recent board comments, including repeated complaints about public comment. Getting a little circular there. Tonight, you talked about changing the public comment policy to streamline meetings and eliminate grandstanding. Yet actions speak louder than words. You're characterizing the public comment as being incredibly negative, when in fact, we are holding you to account. You received a wealth of student data in September, and not one agenda item in September or today is related to student achievement. Why is that? Is the public somehow holding you back from that? There seems to be zero follow-up in regard to improving scores or using the data to improve overall outcomes. The reality is that a majority of the board is focusing your time and attention on partisan and extremist issues. You can say the words student outcomes and academic achievement, but when will you get to the business of doing the work that you pledged to do on behalf of all APS students?
All right, good evening. My name is Marie Meisel, and I am a teacher in this district. And as much as I hate to read things online, but there's still something that's been just really bothered me for the past several months that I really would like to address right now. I've heard some members talk about citizens who've chosen to boycott your business, your practice, whatever, in response to your actions from what you've done here on the board. You've expressed frustration, but I would ask you to consider the irony of that statement. As a teacher, my classroom is my business. My students are my product. The success and well-being and education of my students are the most important thing. Every decision that you make, well, recently lack of decisions, lack of resources, opportunities, the divisive policies, the failure to prioritize student needs, these are all actions that directly harm the success of my business. They make my work harder, and they negatively affect the children I am committed to educating. When you fail to support the betterment of my students, you are effectively undermining my professional life.
So when citizens choose to spend their money elsewhere because they are dissatisfied with your public service, which you chose to put yourself in the public eye, by the way, they're simply exercising a basic right, a right to support them, to support you who support them. They have every right to refuse to support you, a business owned by a person who's failing to support the business of their child's education. This board's primary responsibility is to serve our students and community. I would urge you to come in and be a substitute teacher. Help out in the cafeteria. In fact, some of you, I've never seen you set foot in a building, attend any events. Why is that? Okay. I urge you to put your devices down, get your face out of your phones, out of the computers, and listen with sincere focus. And to remember that the students are not the side issue which you are making them. They are the entire reason you are sitting there.
Thank you.
I'm Darlene Alexander. I live in Hubbard Lake, Michigan, but I live in Alpena County. I just came here to support you all. I'm not here to bash anybody. I'm here to support you. And I want to tell you that God's got this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing no further folks coming on up for public comment, we'll move along from that part of our meeting. Thank you all for your participation, information, and questions from board members. Nothing from board members? Going once? Going twice? Board member comment, questions? Okay. Then I would have you turn your eyes to the advanced planning. October 27th is our regular meeting here at 5:30, and then some meetings of November and December. So be there. Yeah, be there or be square. Thank you all very much. I just want to thank board members tonight for your participation. I felt that there was a good energy in the room. We got a lot done. And of course, I want to thank staff and Dr. Rabideau for your contributions as well. And with that, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much. The gavel.